Deja ver, es que, Marina es asistente.
Hi everyone, we're waiting for Marina to get in the room.
Mm. We are experimenting some technical problems. Yeah, because Marina, she stay in the discussions room and not here in the speakers room. Ah,
Okay, great. We have Marina in the room now.
yeah.
Great. Everyone, Marina is a multidisciplinary artist, researcher, and educator working at the intersection of food experience design and multisensory art practices. And today she's going to present its vision, designing inclusive food experiences as artistic dialogue. Thank you, Marina.
Hi, sorry. So I'm going to share a presentation, okay? how?
You have a small button in the bottom, yeah, and the right.
In this
You
to
see?
share screen.
Exactly. Share screen.
I find it before, and now sorry. In continent maybe.
No, it has to be in your screen in the bottom where you unmute. There is an unmute
There is
for the microphone.
okay. Okay. Sorry. Thank you. Find it. Okay. Now you see all my screen, right?
I can see all your screen exactly.
Okay, perfect. So I thought to start immediately with the presentation, but I think that I start with a bit of a show reel of about what I do, because it just give you a sense of my way of thinking, even though I'm going to speak about eating experience and not necessarily multi-sensory experiences in art. Hi, thank you.
Marina,
Yes.
maybe you can share the link of the video if this is open.
Yeah, sure. I will share it in the end, maybe. It's okay.
Okay, yeah, it's okay.
I
Thank
share all links you will ask for, or
Thank
I
you.
think it's interesting.
Yeah.
So I showed you a bit of my creation in last almost 15 years. I'm creating spaces of experience, evolving art, multidisciplinary arts. And I'm working in the border between being an art curator to being a creator, to be art director, and I get lots of inspiration from cinema and from theater. And my main purpose is to bring art to wide public, and to make with noise, to make quiet places. It sounds really contrastic, but I use the party vibes, the nightlife vibes, and through these experiences, I succeed to bring people to be in a moment of breathing, to be in a moment of being. So I will start my presentation. Food in art is special because everyone can be part of it. When we share food as art, we naturally start talking about things that matter to all of us. Just like food helps us grow, education shapes who we become from our earliest years through school and beyond. What we were taught, what we believe, and what we care about guide us, guide our choices and how we affect others. Think about people who lead art organization. When their education teaches them to value different voices, to be patient, to welcome everyone, and to treat people equally, they make choices that help everyone feel welcome in museums and galleries afterwards. Since 2015, I've been creating art spaces that people can experience with all their senses. I believe art, like food, we all need it we all need to feed our spirits, so everyone should have access to it. 2 years ago, I came back to university and started teaching because I want to make a real difference in society. That's when I got really interested in how food and eating could be part of art. Why food and art together? Because everyone eats, no matter their age or where they are from. When we can talk to each other through food, we can start making positive changes. Eat Vision, it's the model that I'm developing nowadays. Eating experiences as agent of change. So I'm excited to share with you how eating experiences in art can create meaningful social change. Food has always been more than just sustenance. It's a universal language that can transform how we connect, understand, and change our world. Let's begin with a quick look at food history. Food art history, sorry. Artists like Klaus Oldenburg challenge our perceptions by creating giant soft sculptures of everyday food items. David LaChapelle's provocative food photography and Peter Anton's hyper-realistic sculpture continue this tradition. But today, artists are taking this further by making the act of eating itself into art. Why focus on food? Because food is truly universal. Everyone needs to eat. But eating is more than just nutrition. It's a powerful social activity that brings people together, crosses cultural boundaries, and creates natural opportunities for sharing stories and understanding each other. What is Eat Vision? Eat Vision is a framework that combines eating experiences with artistic expression to create social impact. It's about transforming the simple act of eating into an artistic medium that can address social issues, build connections between communities, and promote positive change. One of the pioneers in this field is Rikrit Tiravanija. Since 1990, he has been transforming galleries into kitchen spaces where he cook and serve food to visitors. His work challenges traditional museum practices and demonstrates how sharing meals naturally breaks down barriers between people. This is a this is Honey and Bunny. They are two multidisciplinary artists that works with food. Sorry. Okay. So they're doing different interesting performance art and installations and interactive art. They are building on this tradition. Artist duo Honey and Bunny has been exploring food and society since 2013. The recent work, Sit Down With Me, which is just now in 2023 they created, placed a table in a Vienna's circle, inviting strangers to discuss eating habits and sustainability. Through playful interventions, they help people question assumptions about eating. It's about where food comes from. It's about how, in which society it's consumed, how leftovers are dealt with, and what kind of tools are used. food transforms conflicts into connection. And it's really, it's a really most easy way, I feel, to make a social impact in conflict situations. This example is a work art by Marie Vogelsang. She's an eating experience creator and food designer. In Beirut, artist Marie Vogelsang collaborates with local women's groups from both sides of the historical divided city. Together, they created bread balls dyed green with parsley juice, symbolizing the green line that once separated Muslim West from Christian East Beirut. Community members wrote their wartime memories on these balls, then shared them with ricotta and cedar honey at the local market. Of course, they was eating it. This simple act of preparing and eating together created dialogue between previous divided communities. As one participant noted, no matter what political background you have, food is the thing that combines us. The women's group continued meeting after the project, showing it happens, I think, till today, because she has a blog and she always writing updates about different projects she created. It's showing how food-based art can create lasting connections. It, in my model, is about the experience, and it's about how, what, and whom we eat with. The first element of our framework is it, focusing on the experience itself, like honey and bunny, that show us how we eat, what we choose to eat, and who we eat with, are all meaningful choices that shapes our social interactions and cultural understanding. Vision is about transformation, how we can use these eating experiences to imagine and create positive change. Remember Vogelsang Green Line project. It transformed painful memories into moments of sharing and healing. Value integration. When we integrate values into our art, we make it meaningful. Like Tira Vanijas or Marie Vogelsang or Honey and Bunny performances, we can challenge traditional spaces and create art that welcomes everyone, not just art experts. This is a gap to performance art that I made in a collaboration with two female food artists. Art isn't just visual. When we engage all our senses, taste, smell, touch, sound, and sight, we create deeper, more memorable experiences. Think about those green bread balls in Beirut. They weren't just seen, they were touched, tasted, and shared. Art isn't just visual. When we engage all our senses, the taste, the smell, the touch, the sound, and sight, we create deeper... sorry. I just make it, sorry. It was a chocolate ceremony that I created with someone that was guiding this ceremony. It was about 15 minutes of drinking a glass of hot chocolate with closed eyes, and audio, sound, and music, and vocals. A recent project that I did now, that I'm doing nowadays actually with my students, I ask from each person to choose a fruit or vegetable and spend an hour just observing on it. No eating, just looking, touching, smelling. Then they created an audio piece about their experience. Simple food become gateways to new ways of seeing and experiencing. After they created an audio piece, this audio includes also directions about how I want you to eat a specific fruit. And the experience is that I ask from them to exchange these audio artworks with the fruit or vegetable they choose, and to give someone else to eat it alongside the vocal guide. This is a recent research that I also based on it in my research. Food art democratizes culture and creates dialogue. Recent research confirms that we are seeing in practice So this research actually shows us how food-based art can democratize cultural spaces and foster meaningful cross-cultural dialogue. The research emphasizes that sharing meals helps people understand and accept those different from themselves. Looking ahead, we are training a new generation of artists and cultural leaders who understand the power of food in art. They are creating more inclusive spaces, building bridges between communities, and promoting sustainability through their work. This is artworks by me from last 2 years. Here in the right side of the screen, I had a solo exhibition which I transformed to kind of kitchen laboratory that I invited people to make sandwiches with me. It creates sandwiches of love, and there was people that sign up before, and they brought their own ingredients so we can make their own sandwich. And there were people that just came by and or they just came by and became part of the session that we was in the middle, and we knew strangers together and was eating together. And there was people that just came by, and I had my own ingredients of my sandwich of love, and I created this sandwich with them, and then we was eating together. But the main thing was that the conversation that created. Each session was about 1 hour, more or less, and suddenly I find myself in really intimacy and deep conversation with strange people through preparing this sandwich and sharing memories. And it opens me up that there is something that I feel, and there is something that I now see in field when I meet people in like real time, and I feel all the things that I'm writing about and reading about. It was, I think, maybe first time that I felt it for real as an artist, from my practice as an artist, and not even a curator. And the left side of the screen is my bread and butter project that I already created 4 different ones. And I created also an audio artwork and 2 video artworks. Each time I collaborating with different artisanal baker. And one of my goals is also to promote artisanal manufacturers. And each time I tell their stories in a different way. So through Eat Vision, we are not just sharing meals. We are creating a more connected, understanding, and inclusive world, one bite at a time. Thank you for your attention, and I'm happy to take questions. And I'm sorry for my English.
Thank you, Marina. We don't have any questions in the chat, but we have a comment from Mark commenting on how this eating, sharing food can be seen or being inserted in different countries and how that context will affect to it. Particularly powerful as he comments in Lebanon, Beirut. But do you have any other examples in which this can breach transnational barriers?
Sorry. I need to. Where is the question again? What is the question?
It wasn't a question, it was more of a comment that Mark mentioned on how this can be used to bridge different countries' barriers. And he mentioned the example between Lebanon, Beirut, and how that feels powerful to him. I don't know if you have any other comments on how this can bridge.
Yes, I think that in Israel we do. Actually, I feel that we have many times that we are creating these bridges between the Arab citizen and the Jewish citizen that's living in Israel. I'm teaching in a democracy school. I'm teaching art, high school, and it's in Jaffa. And especially in Jaffa, there is a lot of collaborations like that. And in my school, and I guess it's because the approach of democracy school, there is always a willing to make these connections between two sides, and food is one of ways. And this year I'm going to make a festival of cultural food in the school, and I'm going to invite all the community, and it's evolved 2 sides. So I'm curious about how it's going to happen. I'm imagine like a whole table, a huge table that starts in the area, open area of the school, and goes out to the public area.
Yeah, Marina, I have a question for you. Have you made this experience also outside of Israel or in another country, for example, here in Europe or another?
I want to.
Yeah.
I did the consulate, the Israeli consulate in Turkey. I think it was 4 years ago. They invited me to exhibition that I curated here in Israel. It was an exhibition of illustrator that they was showing Tel Aviv nightlife from illustrator perspective. And they choose this exhibition because they said that the Istanbul nightlife is really similar to Tel Aviv. And I was flying there together with a group of like nightlife musician and artists, and we did a really interesting collaboration there, also alongside with really big illustration magazine, art magazine in Istanbul.
Okay, thank you. Because in my impression, because I'm here in Germany, and my impression here for sometimes, not always, but Berlin is a very special city where there are people from all the world, But when they're dealing with some kind of people, then they are not so very open, They are with the strangers. They act like a weird and a little distance, It's not. I don't know if this is this behavior of getting closer with a stranger. It could succeed in all countries. I mean, I experienced some weird things talking about this because in the Berliner week there was many people, many galleries. They were sharing food and they were sharing drinks outside. And sometimes the people of the galleries and the people there was very rude. And I say, look, go away. We don't want you, or we don't, something like that. There was some also when they were sharing some food or some for everybody in the street. And there are some kind of, I mean, the food, could be always, but the intentionality, that's sharing and to be open, that I think is something very important also.
But you're speaking about food as entertainment. I'm speaking about food as artwork.
Okay. Mm-hmm.
And this is a really big difference. Nothing from what I showed and nothing from none of my examples is not related to food as just, catering in event. It's I only interested in artworks that in food as an artwork, eating as an artwork, and it's get the same place. When I turned the gallery into my hub of creating sandwiches, people came to gallery. People didn't came to eat.
There was clear. There's a big difference, because the people is more open in the moment that they are gallery and they participate. They are more open.
But for example, I've been in a meeting in a museum last month, and they told me that that's really cool, but like they can't allow enter food in the museum. I said, but like it's a work of art. It's like I'm not approach you to make like catering. It's a work of art. But like food next to other works. And it was a really interesting conversation because like I didn't thought it. I'm not doing anything new. Like since 90s, food is inside of museum spaces. So it was an interesting conversation.
And what happened with when the people doesn't like the food? For example, when it's too spicy or something like that.
Let's speak about. But my experience, my own experience, is about something that I try to make universal, like bread and butter. And for example, there was vegan people that came to me, but they really wanted to experience like the process. So there was standing on the queue and waiting till I will have the time for them. And they told me, okay, like we will like want to experience, but we won't eat because we can't eat. Or suddenly there was people that I don't know, diet, etc. There was many people that was about 2 hours standing next like to me on the side and like, only watching all the process of me with other people. And I was like, in one point I told them, don't you want some bite of like bread and butter? And they said, no, it's okay. So it was really interesting because for me, like I'm like one of my performance, I ask you so many questions about how you like your bite of bread and butter, which is like goes to absurd. because I want you to really deep thinking about how you like something, not about who you think you like something. And I do it like, I don't know, it can be 5 minutes of you say this bread and butter can be really in your mouth, but you won't get it because I have another question and another question. And those people that like standing on the side and just watching, if it was me, it's really hard to watch it and not to get a bite in the end. So it was interesting to understand that there is people that this is the experience for them. Like the experience is not necessary about the eating in the end. They are eating with their eyes, they're eating with their brain, with their mind.
Mm-hmm. And in this case of the what you mentioned about Honey and Bunny, that there was some performance where they are also focusing the person in the to speak in some specific topic about this climate change or something sustainability.
Yes,
I think, yeah,
sustainability. Yeah, they are
yeah.
dealing with it.
Okay, and you also suggest some topics in your works or in your
Yeah,
uh-huh.
it vision is related to sustainability and especially about social sustainability. It means that we as a society, um, comparing to sustainability environmental, so the social is bigger because it means that I understand that each thing that I will do in this world is reflect on someone on something else. And in this approach of social sustainability, I invite people to think about this. And when me understand that each decision of mine reflect on others, so maybe I will do it differently. So, for example, when I brought to students think about this apple and look at this, I also invited them to think about the process this apple needed to do, so they will hold it in their hand. It's about the farmer that grows it. It's about the person that drive the car and take the apples to clean them, and then to this to another person. To like, there's a whole process, and the branch of people that needed to work. So you will have this apple, and then maybe I won't, maybe I can, maybe I can't, but for me, for example, like most amazing experience is to take apple from tree or any fruit from land, like. And when you bring this experience to people, especially to children today, it's unbelievable how it makes them exciting as well, because suddenly, like, you understand the connection between what you eat and where it comes from.
Exactly. Thank you so much. Yeah. That's what my questions. I don't know if there is another question, Sara.
There is Mark write me stuff here, but Mark, I need to be focused to read it. Is it okay that I read it now?
I will say if that
Okay.
helps you, go
Yeah.
ahead.
Yeah, I see it. Mark, thank you so much. I will go deeper to this, and I will approach to you. Mark is not here.
He's present, he just cannot talk
Okay.
on the chat. Yeah.
Thank you. I will answer this after.
Okay. So unfortunately, our next speaker, so Angela McKillen, she couldn't be present because she had she canceled yesterday. Apparently, she has some loss in her family, and yeah, she couldn't be there. So we very sorry that Angela couldn't be here and that she for her loss also. And yeah, I mean, I think we can make some kind of a break of 5 minutes, and then we can continue with the next speakers round, with Sihan and Brooke.
How I want to ask a question. Do you familiar with this kind of artworks that involve eating experience in artistic spaces?
Me personally, I was exactly here in Berlin in one exhibition of Tiravanija in Neue Schneider, in the gallery Neue Schneider. I was in a performance on Tiravanija here in Berlin.
What was he doing there?
What was?
Yeah.
I mean, there was in some level, there was some exchange and integration of the people, but not always, not in all cases, Some people just close it, maybe take something, or maybe there was some groups that there was talking in one corner and another in another corner. I mean, this totally integration, there was not I don't know, not very succeed. I don't know. I mean, at the end, I don't know what is the really purpose. That is really to integrate all or just a few. But it was very interesting, definitely. To have this experience of eating in a gallery at someone that prepared your food into the gallery as a performance.
So it's like the aesthetic relation in the 90s started with one of the main artists that created this way of thinking is Riku Tiravanija, of creating an object or an act which combines people in a place, come together and have a conversation. This is how aesthetic relation started. And there was and afterwards it also got a critic Claire Bishop really criticized this aesthetic relation and Riku Tiravanija. And it was from one hand she said that he's doing this in museum and art galleries and it's not public, not really public. And in the end, it's the same people that can afford themselves go to gallery and museum, experience it. And it's not he said his goal is to spread food and make it public and democracy of cultural food. But she said that in the end, it's not happened because it's still in galleries and museums. And I was thinking about, for me, he was one of the first people that did such a thing. So I really appreciate his creation, no matter it's criticized. It's good, it's criticized. So one of the things that I was trying to think about is that the connections needs to be much more meaningful than just cook in a gallery and bring food. And this is why things that I created or curated are always try to emphasize on the more intimacy connection between people during food, through food.
Yeah, definitely. Thank you so much. Yeah.
So I understand what you're saying about
I'm the point. I'm a foreigner here in Germany. And maybe it would be different if I experience it in my home country, that's Mexico. Mexico has a huge tradition and a very culinary culture, very, 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 very rich. Very deep and intrinsic in the culture. So food and sharing food for the family and between the family and between the friends is something that we enjoy every day. And I experienced that not in Mexico. I tried to experience here, But here in Germany, the food there is not like Spain or Italy, yeah, where the culture, the food is very, very intrinsic in the culture, yeah, and this is this is another mentality, another way of thinking, yeah, and yeah, maybe it was because of that. I don't know, yeah.
Many reasons can influence on everything, yeah. But in the end, my conclusion that I really sure of it is about food can break boundaries
Yeah, definitely. I'm agree with that.
and
Yeah,
bring people from both sides, different sides, to connect.
yeah.
Thank you.
Thank
Thank
you.
you, David.
Yeah, thank you to you, Marina. Thank you so much. Yeah, enjoy it. Yeah.
We come back to this link after?
Yeah. I mean, you can remain there just to get out of the stage. Yeah.
Okay.
There is a button out of the stage, and just you can stay there.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Bye.
So bye. So. So Brooke and Sihan, when you want, you can enter into the stage, and we can announce your talks. Yeah.
So I see they are already in the room. Do you know how to enter the stage?
Because my mic is open. Yeah, now I'm on.
Perfect.
Right?
Great.
Now you're in the stage, Sihan.
Thank you, David.
Yeah. And the other is Brooke. Brooke is there, but I don't. I will send her an email, a message. Yeah, we can start with you, Sihan. if you wish.
Sure. I'm ready. I just need to share my screen, right?
Yeah, first that Sara introduce you. Can you introduce Sihan? Yeah. Thank you,
For
Sara.
everybody else in the room, Sihan is a Berlin-based museologist and a visual anthropologist with expertise in exhibition production in various organizations, such as Alter in Istanbul, owned by others in Berlin, and Transmediale, also in Berlin. He holds a master in visual art and media anthropology for the HMKV in Berlin and in museum management from Istanbul University. He's contributing to critical thinking in topics such as the decolonization of museums, art workers' rights, art washing, briefly anything related to museum politics. He's a writer and an editor at eScope and contributed to academic journals such as FWD, Museums, and the University of Illinois in Chicago, and Urban Journal in Charles University in Prague. Besides scholarly articles, he expressed himself with different mediums such as screen prints, photographs, videos, postcards, stickers, scenes, and collage. And he's going to talk about your art museum, sponsored and run by ? There you go, Sian.
It's perfect. Yeah. I'm sharing my screen and I want to share Keynote. Then it says screen sharing failed. You might need extra permission. Is it about my settings? Yeah, let me check. All right. I will try again.
David is writing, maybe if you enter the chat with the link of attendance and not of the co-presenter.
All right.
Might that be it?
Should I log off and log in again?
If possible?
Yeah, sure.
No, you enter. No. That is for Brooke. That is for Brooke. You enter correctly.
Yeah, I think so. But when I try to share my screen,
then that might be from your own computer settings.
Yeah, I guess so. I'm trying to solve it quickly. Actually, everything seems okay, but
did you see the button of the sharing the screen?
yeah, I'm clicking on that, and then I try to click on my keynote or my screen. There's help article. It says screen sharing failed because I need some extra permission. There's help section. I'm quickly reading that. So sorry, but yeah.
You can send me your presentation by email if you wish, and I can open it.
I'll just try something quickly.
Yeah.
From my.
Hi, Brooke. Welcome. Thank you.
Thank you. I forgot about the other link, but I've been in here the whole time watching. It's been great.
Thank you. Well, then we hear is you after Sihan. Yeah.
Yeah.
Thank you.
All right, now it should practically work. I changed something. It still says same. I don't understand.
You can share it with me by email or by Google Docs, and I can share it. Yeah.
All right, I think I'll do that. But let me try one more thing. I will try one last thing. Now it's still. All right, I'm sending you an email.
Mm-hmm.
All right, the folder is a little bit big. Should I re-enter the room quickly because I changed something? I don't know. Oh, I can hear you, David. Your mic is.
Yeah, exactly. Maybe Brooke can start, and then in the
Yeah,
meantime, you can send me that.
Yeah, I said, but I will log in and try next time.
Okay.
Thank you.
Brooke, is this okay if you
Yes.
start? Yeah.
Yes.
Sara, can you please introduce Brooke?
Hi. Okay. For the and their.
It's okay.
Perfect.
Sorry.
So everyone, Brooke is the Director of Impact and Sustainability at Art Pop Street Gallery, a nonprofit arts organization in Charlotte, North Carolina, the US. Brooke also works as an independent curator to develop exhibits and programs based on cultural documentation and preservation. Current projects include the Guam Museums and the Thankful Heritage Black History Museums. Her areas of expertise and interest include cultural heritage preservation, land back and decolonization, eliminating environmental racism, and creating equitable and just futures, specifically among the Pacific Islands and the ANNHPI diaspora, and Southern Black and Indigenous communities. And today she's going to talk about decolonizing from the diaspora, fighting for artifact reparations for our motherlands. Thank you, Brooke.
Thank you, everyone. Good morning. Well, good afternoon, depending on here. Good morning for me. Can everyone see my screen okay?
Yes.
Yes.
Great. Okay, thank you. So I will be presenting on a topic that's near and dear to my heart, decolonizing from the diaspora, fighting for artifact repatriations for our motherlands. That word is so hard for me to say, repatriations. So just a little bit about me. My name is Brooke Sloan Gibbons. My Chamorro name is Sara. So being from Guam, our people are called Chamorro, and you are seeing it correctly, big C, big H, because the C and the H are considered one letter in our native tongue. So my name is Sara of the Dialog clan of Talafofo, Guahan. I currently reside in Charlotte, North Carolina in the United States on Catawba lands. They are known as, their original name is the Iyaswa. I'm a visual artist and storyteller, curator, and I'm the director of impact and sustainability at a local nonprofit arts organization. So today what I want to get into is repatriation and why it matters. I'm going to give some historical context. I'm going to dive into a case study about something happening in Guam, give some updates on things around the globe, and what we can do, whether you live in the diaspora like myself and you want to be connected to returning artifacts to your own homeland, or whether you live in a country that has historically maybe looted or stolen or has artifacts that belong to other countries, and what you can do. So repatriation and why it matters. Repatriation is the process of returning cultural artifacts, sacred objects, or remains to their communities of origin. It matters because it restores dignity and sovereignty to communities, it preserves cultural identity and history, and it supports reconciliation and healing from colonial injustices. Some historical context of artifact displacement and the effects of global colonialism. Around 90% of Africa's cultural objects are held outside the continent, mostly in European museums. Many artifacts were taken during colonial conquest, war, and exploitative agreements. In the United States, it's been more about the impact of Western expansion. Native American artifacts and ancestral remains were widely looted during Western expansion. And for Guam, which is a US territory, and other territories belonging to the United States, we experienced similar exploitation during military occupation. So I'm going to talk about Guam quite a bit. In Guam, we are a US territory. We don't have exactly the same rights as those who live stateside. So for example, I live in the United States. I reside in the United States in North Carolina, so I'm able to vote for the US president. In Guam, if I were to move back to Guam, I am a US resident by birth, but I cannot vote for the president. It's very strange. So there is quite a bit of military land takeover in Guam, and currently they have ruined, I would say, sacred sites. I'm not trying to be political or controversial, but they have literally bulldozed over sacred sites, and there are remains of our ancestors in the military offices there on Guam. So in the past century, there has been some legal framework for repatriation, both around the world and the United States. The UNESCO Convention in 1970 regulated the illicit trade of cultural property. And then in 1995, the UNIDROIT Convention on Stolen or Illegally Exported Cultural Objects expanded on that, and that applies to the possessor of a cultural object. So any person who possesses a cultural object is required to return it. And recently, countries like France, Germany, the Netherlands, and Belgium have legally committed to returning artifacts to places such as Benin, Senegal, Nigeria, the Democratic Republic of Congo, all in Africa, Sri Lanka, and Indonesia. And I do want to mention, though, what's funny is the opposite side of that legally is in Britain, they have their own legal framework for kind of doing the opposite. The British Museum Act of 1963 bans the removal of artifacts from their collections unless it's a duplicate, damaged, or is deemed unfit for the collection. So we'll talk about the British Museum a little bit later on and how this is affecting the return of artifacts to countries in Africa from the British Museum. And then in the United States, we have NAGPRA, which is the Native American Graves Protection and Repatriation Act. It's a federal law that has provided for the protection and return of Native American human remains, funerary objects, sacred objects, and objects of cultural patrimony. And since this has been introduced in 1990, NAGPRA has been responsible for returning over 870,000 Native American human remains to their tribes. And in total, over 2 million sacred objects have been returned. And I want to jump into a case study, and I will have a visual for this on the next slide. This is about Guam and the Bishop Museum in Hawaii. As you know, Hawaii is an American state, and Guam is a U.S. territory. The Bishop Museum houses a vast collection of Chamorro artifacts, including ancient lati stones, which is, I will show a visual of that in a second to describe what a lati stone is. It's kind of a very large mystery object that lives all over Guam. But these stones are symbolic of the Chamorro heritage, and they were taken during the early 20th century by a United States military person named Hans Ornbostel and his wife. They lived on the island, and they just took these objects. And at one time, the Ornbostel collection in total consisted of over 10,000 items, including the ancestral remains of more than 300 Chamorros. So these are human remains that were taken. It also included more than 2,000 sling stones and thousands of pieces of pottery. Luckily, the Bishop Museum in Hawaii has been very, very cooperative, and efforts to return these artifacts are underway. The Guam's Lieutenant Governor, Josh Tenori, is spearheading that. But issues still arise because the lati stones are very, very heavy, and there's so many other artifacts. For context, Hawaii is 3,798 miles away from Guam, which is about a 7 to 8 hour plane ride. So, you know, Pacific Ocean's very vast. So to return the lati stones is very, very heavy and very, very expensive. So that is something that has to be acknowledged, that repatriation of items, unfortunately, is a very expensive process. But again, the Bishop Museum has been very cooperative. Even though thousands of items still remain there in Hawaii, but they have acknowledged the cooperation and the partnership to return those items. So there's the lati stone that is in Guam, and that is what a lati stone looks like. And like I said, there's a few of them in the Bishop Museum in Hawaii. The Chamorros are a matriarchal society, and therefore we refer to repatriation as rematriation, but returning artifacts to indigenous communities like the Chamorro is of great importance when the culture is endangered. Today, there are less than 130,000 Chamorros around the world, both island and abroad. That's it. that's what's left of us. And less than 60,000 of us speak the native language. I unfortunately am not completely fluent in my own native language. My mother still is. And while she's still alive, I feel it is very important for me to speak the language more because it is an endangered language. And, you know, I think in like another generation or two, I don't know what's going to happen unless my generation and everyone who comes after me keeps us alive, right? Keeps our culture alive. So to me, repatriation is preservation. There are some challenges to artifact repatriation that we've talked about. Only 1% of artifacts in major European museums have been returned, and that is due to a few reasons. There's a museum resistance due to institutional claims of better preservation in the global north. So I know like the British Museum, they say that they can take better care of these objects than their home countries can. There are also bureaucratic hurdles requiring proof of provenance, which is difficult to establish for looted artifacts. So someone from a country in Africa can come in and say, oh, that belongs to us. And the museum will say, we'll prove it. Where's the receipts, right? And you're like, well, I don't have receipts. This was thousands of years ago. Museums want to retain a large collection, which helps their funding and visitorship. So some museums, they are reluctant to return items, thousands of items, because they need that for their collection. That helps them in their own funding for their own museum. And there's the lack of involvement from the diaspora. Many of us are unaware of the artifact's significance or location. For me and my family, my younger cousins who live here in the States, they are not as involved in what's going on with the Guam Museum and the Bishop Museum in Hawaii. So they have no idea if it wasn't for me being like out and loud about it, right? So we just need to really advocate for what's going on. So what we can do, how we can advocate from afar, how those living in the diaspora can help indigenous communities and their homeland. There is the policy advocacy. We can push the governing body of the museum country to follow international repatriation laws. We can amplify culture, history, and voices. We can make others aware of the situation, share the ethical and cultural importance of repatriation. We can advocate for indigenous museum leadership. We can encourage museums to rethink leadership, transparency, inventory, and programming. So even if we're looking at a country like, say, the United States, And I'm going to talk about something that has just happened in the United States, how they actually returned some artifacts. Having what we've been talking about this whole conference, having more DEI implementations, encouraging the leadership to be more diverse, that helps museums to rethink everything that they're doing. And then we have to think about the future. We have to, engage with youth engagement in social media, utilize those sources, look to technology in the future to raise awareness, utilize the younger generation's voice. And so what I have here on the next few slides, and I won't read it slide by slide, it's just some ways to just do what we can do from afar. And like I said, even if you live in a country that owes artifacts to another country, you can do the same thing. To reclaim what's owed, we must stay one step ahead at all times. It's all about innovation. It's all about thinking ahead. I always say that it is my responsibility to advocate for myself and my culture because I cannot depend on anyone else to do it. So a few things that we can do: educate and raise awareness. We can research artifact histories, share stories, collaborate with academics and cultural institutions. We can build alliances and community advocacy. There are diaspora coalitions that we can create or join. We can engage with our local museums, and we can collaborate with advocacy groups. We can leverage legal and diplomatic channels, support national and international laws, engage diplomats and governments, and push for transparency in museums. Use media and advocacy campaigns, create online campaigns, storytelling through media, and influence public opinion. Be loud, basically, be loud about it. And, again, think innovatively, explore digital repatriation and partnerships. There's virtual collections. So in the meantime, what we can do, if physical repatriation is not immediately possible, advocate for digital replicas or 3D scans of artifacts to be shared with your homeland's institutions for educational and cultural use. It's kind of like the least you can do, right? Like we may not have our artifacts back to us, but if we have something that we can share digitally, then we can use that again for educational and cultural use. And then again, like I said, the youth engagement, involve the younger generation. Advocate for policy changes in your host country, push for museum reform, petition for international collaboration, and very, very importantly, support repatriation efforts financially, fundraise for legal costs, support cultural institutions at home. Again, repatriation is a very expensive but necessary process. But I have some good news. Here are some recent repatriation wins from around the world. And if you'll notice, all these years were this decade after 2020. And I think with the COVID-19 pandemic, and then of course in the United States, the Black Lives Matter movement in 2020, I think it helped push things along in all aspects of being progressive. It caused a lot of institutions to rethink and relook at themselves and kind of take more ethical stances. So in 2021, France returned 26 artifacts to the country now known as Benin, which is formerly Dahomey, and that is in Africa. In 2022, Germany returned 22 Benin bronzes to Nigeria as part of a deal to transfer ownership of over 1,100 artifacts. So Benin and Nigeria are side by side. So when I say Benin, sometimes I'm talking about the country, and sometimes I'm talking about the Kingdom of Benin, known as Benin City in Nigeria. In 2021, the US returned 17,000 artifacts to Iraq, including a 35,000-year-old tablet containing the epic poem of Gilgamesh. Now, this is wild because a lot of people think that repatriation process deals with artifacts that are just from hundreds or thousands of years ago. But these artifacts were taken in this century when the US led their invasion in Iraq, and they took all these and they came to the United States. They brought these back to the United States and then sold them off. So this, I think it was the tablet or something else, it was sold to the craft store Hobby Lobby, which is just wild to think that this is happening in this century. But luckily this stuff was returned to Iraq, rightfully so. And so as I was making this presentation, my husband brought home the paper that he was reading at work yesterday. So I added this tidbit that he read. Just this week, more than 30 tribes, museums, and institutions were granted a combined $3 million from the National Park Service, NPS, to assist with Native repatriations. This is really great and interesting because they're giving the money collectively to both tribes that need their artifacts back, and also to the museums to help them push that along, so it goes both ways. So that's really impressive. The National Park Service here in the United States is a wonderful, wonderful thing, and I hope the government does not ever get rid of it. So thank you very much. I know that was quick. I'm a fast talker, sorry. If there's any questions or anything, I can unshare my screen here.
Yeah, thank you so much. I think just to make sure that everybody has time, we can go ahead with Sihan and then save all the questions for the end of both of you.
Great, thank you.
Then,
All right. Yeah, I just changed my browser, so I will try again quickly. If I can share. Doesn't allow me to share my screen. It's weird.
maybe if you send it to David, David
Yeah, I
can
sent to David as PDF format.
As PDF. You already sent me to that.
Yeah, I replied your email.
Okay.
Let's check if it's working. I don't know why. I also like check.
Mm-hmm. Okay, I share it, yeah?
I will check if I can see. Yes, you can make like, yeah, full size.
You tell me when I change the slide,
Yeah, but it's like 52 pages, but don't be afraid of it because there are lots of like events, so there are no writings. I will only talk about it. But the previous presentation was like amazing because I'm also like working on the topic of decolonization, especially in Germany, in Berlin, based on mostly about like Humboldt Forum. I was going to make a presentation about decolonization, but it's also I wanted to talk about like sponsorship because it's a big topic and it tells a lot about how like this museum structure is working. Because I'm a museologist and I'm also like visual anthropologist, so I worked for a major museum in Istanbul for like 5 years, so I know how this museum structure is working. So I will talk about that. You can go to next slide, and it's a question. Like I especially like chose this topic, like free admission days. Yeah, there's a misspelling there. Sorry about that. Because it tells a lot about like how the museums are running, what they are relying on, the core structure of the museum. It's super problematic. So I will only focus one topic today, and it's about like how we got this free admission days in art museums. And for that, we need to look up one example, which you can look up to any example to MoMA, because it's amazing with its history and it tells a lot about the art museums, especially even today. So you can go to next slide. Yeah. All right, this is a little bit small. I will make it for myself, or I can follow here too. Yeah. All right. So I will take you back to 1939. I opened the slide on my second screen, so I will follow also from there. So I will take you back to 1939, which is like the early days of the opening of MoMA. It's quite interesting because I always like give examples through MoMA because it was the first museum that used the name modern art in the history, and it still tells a lot about the modern art or contemporary art museums even nowadays. So in 1939, it was when the opening of the new and also like the current main building of MoMA, they actually started using the name modern when they moved to there. There was a protest inside the museum. So you can go to next slide. Oh, this will be challenging. There's lots of slides. Maybe you can just skip the page because there will be lots of pages coming in. Can you do that with the plus sign?
No, I don't think so.
Oh, all right. This is weird. But it's okay. All right. So the protest inside the museum, it was really weird because it was 1939 and all these like art museums, especially in the West, in US and also in UK, in Europe, they were all like funded by this, you know, big businessmen or big corporates. So MoMA was the same. Like it was actually like established by big barons, how they call it in US. So, and there were lots of big oil companies behind MoMA. So this inside protests happened because when they moved to their new building, which it's now the building also, the original building, they invited all these sponsors like big oil companies or the big steel companies, but they didn't invite some of the staff to the opening. So this was like a protest inside the museum. Then like another protest movement started against MoMA. This was from artists. You can see their names. It's well-established artists like Josef Albers, William de Koning, Lee Krasner, and Jackson Pollock. They were also like criticizing MoMA's attitude against the artists. So protests against music, it's a old thing actually. It's actually started with the creation of the art museums. The Louvre was also like protested a lot by the artists. It was occupied by the artists actually. We can move to next slide. So I just show this example that even like the 1940s, there was like a resistance against the museum and it was challenging its sponsorships. So after like 30 years, in the beginning of 1969, January, there were two groups. You can go to next slide. All right, this will be challenging, but yeah, thank you so much, David.
No problem.
Yeah. So there were two groups. This was like the first group was Art Workers Coalition, which is formed by artists. The other one, Guerrilla Art Action Group. It was also like mainly from artists. Yeah, you can slowly go to next slides. Yeah, you can just wait a couple of minutes. Yeah, you can pass. All right. So the Art Workers Coalition started protesting MoMA in the beginning of 1969, and they had some demands from the museums, like it was challenging the structure of the museum. It was saying that, hey, museums are for corporations, but it should be the opposite. It should be for the people, especially for the artists and for the working class. You can go to a couple of more slides. I can tell. Yeah, you can go. Yeah, we can. Yes, perfect. So they had so much demands, but these are super reasonable demands, and it was also like directly criticizing the structure of the museum, and it made so much publicity in the media, lots of coverage in the media, because the people who were protesting the museum, they were already established artists like Hans Hacke, for example, a German artist who was living in New York. You can go a little bit more. Yeah, the artists were taking off their sculptures from the exhibitions and they were like putting pressure on the museum. You can go slowly. So sorry about this. Yeah, this is interesting. It became a big thing inside the museum too. So MoMA's director, Bates Lowry, back that time, actually like invited these group, Art Workers Coalition, to the museum for a meeting, and he was saying that, hey, we can discuss this situation with you, what's going on, let's see. You can go a couple of more slides. Yeah, here maybe. So actually, like, he invited the group to the museum for a meeting on February 28th, and the group answered like, hey, we have these demands. So this part is important because they had 13 main demands from the museum, and they were saying that we have these solid demands and we just want answers to them. It's like, there's nothing to discuss. These are our demands. We don't need to meet. You can go a couple of more slides. Yeah, you can see they were like challenging the museum. Yeah, all right, let's talk about this too. So then, as I said, it was a big thing inside the museum. So Bates Lowry, the director, was like talking with the staff and saying that, hey, you know, we need to solve this. There's a challenge outside from the museum to us. Let's form a committee which will be dealing with these artists. We will talk with them, you know, we will get some recommendation from them. So they try to solve this inside the museum. They try to find a committee inside the museum by the museum people. Maybe next slide. Yeah, you can. Yeah, all right. Yeah, you can stay here. Then, they formed this special committee to study museum's relationship to the artists and society in mid-March. So it only like this protest movement was only like 2 months old, and even that was like super effective. Museum decided to make this committee inside the museum to deal with this protest coming outside of the museum by the artists and coalition of cultural workers. They by that time they sent so many letters to the museum director saying that, hey, this is still our demands. We just want answers to this, and I will talk about these demands later. Yeah, you can just go. For example, you can see 5 basic demands that they were giving. Actually, these two, the flyer on the left bottom and right bottom, these were like the flyers that they were inviting people to the protest. It was more like an occupation in the museum, and they were inviting them to protest Museum of Modern Art on 13th of March. So it was only like the 3rd month of this coalition of artists, challenged museum, and they announced their first major protest on 13th of March. You can go, yeah. All right. You can go one more slide, more maybe. Yeah.
This one?
Yes. This was like you can see a screenshot from the Bates Lowry's letter to the staff. Actually, just go one more. It's interesting. Yes, and he was saying to the staff like, hey, this group of artists, they are giving away these flyers in front of our museum, and they are saying that they are going to protest our museum on 13th of March because they have these crazy demands. They are demanding that museum should be free. It's insane because, you know, these people, they are the artists and they have free admission. Because MoMA was supplying New York-based artists an annual membership, which is like super cheap, which it was supplying them to visit museum anytime, any day. But the thing is, Art Workers Coalition demanding the free day from the museum, not for themselves, but actually for the working class, because the original demand is about like, we want museums free and also 1 or 2 days till late night, because working class can only visit museum after their shift is done, and they should visit museums free. So that was their original demand. And the director, Bates Lowry, was like complaining to its staff, like, hey, they are trying to protest us, but we are also like, we are supplying them free annual tickets. Why? I don't understand why they are like protesting us. You can go to next slide. Yes, here is the protest, which happened on the 13th of March. It was like 50 artists or something like that. And it was more like an occupation. You can think like, oh, 50 artists just like protested a museum. Yeah, it's not a big thing. Just go to next slide. Yeah, here is the Bates Lowry's letter to the staff at the same day saying that, hey, we just had a protest from the artists, and I'm attaching the New York Times news about it. Yeah, you can go to the next slide and you can see the actually New York Times article about the museum protests. So it was like a big thing. Then you can go to next slide. And eventually, like MoMA had so much pressure within just 4 months, and they had to like accept some of the demands because there was so much pressure on them, and they actually accepted free admission day demand. But it was like so tough for them. You can just go to next slide, because within like 5 months, this process like ate Bates Lowry, so he had to resign from the directorship of Museum of Modern Art. You can go to next slide, or maybe 2 more. Yes. Yeah, in May, actually, MoMA agreed to start their free admission days. But the thing is, it's during this whole process, it was so different to see. If you check these like documents, you can see that it was so different point of views from protesters and from museum management, because since the beginning this thing started, Bates Lowry begging companies to come and save the museum, because he was saying that, oh yeah, you know, the companies are supporting us, without them we can't survive, they should do something. And it's not he was not talking about sponsorship, because this happened in 69. Sponsorship term was not like the same sponsorship term that we are using today. So if you go to next slide, you can see the original 13 demands. This is super important. If you are interested in this kind of struggle with inside the museums, Art Workers Coalition's 13 demands, it's like a holy text. So, and this was the original 13 demands that they sent this letter to the Museum of Modern Art in 28 January 1969. After Bates Lowry resigned, actually, the group was even like sending letters to Nixon, the president at that time, saying that, hey, we can help you to decide who can run MoMA. That like they had so much confidence because they got something from the museum within just like 4 months by just putting pressure on them, by protest, by publicity. So actually, the slide on the top, it's the original reply from Museum of Modern Art to the 13 demands. They had to like reply each demand, and so like if you read the, I will tell you the sources in the end. But if you're interested in, you can just check their letter. It's well prepared. You can go to next slide. Then we can see the section 5, which Art Workers Coalition was like asking about free admission days. And you can see the MoMA's reply to that. Actually, they agreed to open the museum freely only one evening a week. So they got something. They demanded that museums should be free a whole week for everyone. in the end they got something, and that something was like one evening a week. It's completely free. I mean, if you check any kind of big art institution right now, there is free admission day, only like probably once a week. So if you go to next slide. So I was working in New York in 2015, and it was the first time that I visit MoMA. And of course, I'm a museologist, by the way. And of course, when I go to abroad and try to visit museums, I always check like, all right, which day is the free day? Because I mean, supporting your local museums, it's an important thing. Do it financially, physically, mentally. You can do. Please do whatever you want. But other than that, I completely like disagree to pay this kind of big institutions, which is like backed up by big companies like MoMA, like Tate. Feel free to use the free days without guilt. So when I visited MoMA in 2025, I of course chose the free day, and I got my ticket because it's not like, oh, it's a free day, I will go there and just wait in the line and I will go inside. It doesn't work like that. You need to go to a website, subscribe, whatever, take a slot. It's so much work still, even it's free. So I went there, and it was my free day was sponsored by Uniqlo, which the sponsorship started in 2013, and it was before it was Target. So I actually visited MoMA under the sponsorship of Uniqlo, which I like Uniqlo, by the way, too. So this is not about like criticism of like, oh, this sponsorship, it's ruining words, so they shouldn't sponsor museum. No, it's not about that. It's about the whole structure, how this is running. So Uniqlo is like one of the main sponsors till, since 2013. You can go maybe. Oh yeah, you can go to next slide. I talk about Uniqlo, but yeah, you can see here. You can go one more. Yeah, this is Uniqlo's website. This is from Uniqlo's website, and I put it because I put the same sponsorship, how Uniqlo is looking to it, and how MoMA is considering it. So this is from Uniqlo's website, and this free day is actually a program. You know, it's Friday night, and it's everything is. If you go there on Friday night, you can see all this like Uniqlo brand there. You can go to MoMA's shop and buy this stuff, which is in collaboration between Uniqlo and MoMA. You can go to next slide. Thank you so much, by the way. Yeah, and this is also like from Uniqlo's website, and it's like the sponsorship is under the section of sustainability. So you can also think about that. You can go to next slide, because Uniqlo is not only sponsoring MoMA, they are sponsoring Louvre, MFA Boston, and Tate. So it's a huge corporate that is investing in our business, let's say. You can go to next slide. And if you go to MoMA's website, then there's this sponsorship section, which is for corporates. And there's 3 sections there. So the first one is like corporate membership. You can go to next slide. Maybe. Yes, go more. One more, maybe. And one more. So I will talk about this. Yes, perfect. This corporate membership program, there are like 300, more than 300 corporates that has membership program from the MoMA. These are like big companies like Google, all these banks. So you pay some amount of money to the MoMA, and they give you this corporate membership, which if you pay a lot, your workers can go to MoMA and just show their workers ID. They can go into the museum, free admission plus 2 guests. You pay less, free admission and plus 1 guest. And if you pay less, only just your worker has right to go to the museum freely, not with guests. So you can go one more. The second sponsorship option is to sponsorship the exhibitions, because in big institutions such MoMA or Tate, exhibitions usually stay like 6 months, sometimes a year, sometimes years. So if you become like a sponsorship to, if you become a sponsor to an exhibition, you can go to next slide. This is, I will show how they're like promoting this sponsorship method. It's actually, it's saying on the Museum of Modern Art's website that yeah, we have 4 million visitors yearly, and if you become a sponsor to us, plus with that 4 million, it engages with like 54 million users online too. So that's how they are promoting, you know, there's visibility that we are creating, because they made a, they usually make a post on social media, then thank you, so your corporate is there. It's a big publicity. You can go to next one. The next one is yeah, you can go. Yes, this one. This is the last sponsorship program that MoMA is actually doing. It's the major partnership. You can see all these like corporates, which they are the main sponsors of MoMA. You can go to next one. Yes, these are right now the main sponsors of MoMA, and Uniqlo is the one who is sponsoring the free days. So if you go to MoMA this day, on a free day, you're not actually free because you're sponsored by someone. I mean, it's like you need to thank Uniqlo to visit MoMA for freely. But like 30 years before, it was a right which is earned by the artists, by the cultural workers, let's say, and their demand was to visit the museum as like cultural workers, or as like a class actually. And you can go to next slide, which will be one of the last. This was like 2 days ago. So one of the best thing about Berlin, it was this museum Sonntag thing, which every first Sunday of the month, the state museums was free for 3.5 years. It was perfect thing. I literally visited so many museums in this program, and it was really nice to see people there on Sunday. It was fully packed. All the museums were like fully packed. You were waiting in the line. It's crazy. And on Thursday, the Senate announced that they are killing this program because of the budget cuts. Yeah, because they need to cut some budget, and it's, yeah, museums are not making profit. So if you go to next slide, if you are based in Berlin, 1st of December will be the last Museum Sonntag. So I suggest you to go to the free museum, enjoy the free museum, and don't forget how this right was earned by the cultural workers and people and the public. And yeah, I think this tells a lot about how sponsorships are shaping the museum. You can go to next slide, and these are all the sources that I used. But if you are more interested in, I can supply you so much information to you. I just don't want to use everything to be, I just want to prevent myself to being like overwhelmed. So, all right, this is the end. But if you have any comments, any questions about details or some other museums, because I didn't talk about Tate, for example. Tate's case was like amazing. Tate and BP sponsorship, which was ended after some, like another group called Liberate Tate protested them for more than 10 years. It's a whole other different story, and there are lots of stories like that.
I can say about Israel that we are in the art world have a lot of issues about this topic, that we don't have anything like that. And a few years ago, the city hall in Tel Aviv started like in the white night to open once a year, to open the museums. And each time something like that happening, you can really feel the difference between how many people visit the museum, if it's free or if it's without the free admission or even a discount, because it's a quite big amount of cost for ticket, especially for a family. In Israel, family is not 2 or 3 people; it's many times more. And when family wants to go to museum, they really think about the issue of the cost of the ticket. So. As a group of artists or people that evolve in the cultural field in Tel Aviv, in Israel, we are dealing with these issues of free admission, and there is some organizations like organization of the plastic artists or organization of the independent artists. So if you are making the how we call this a subscription that you pay like for a whole year, that you're part of this organization, so they have different deals with the museums that you can, if you are part of this organization, so you can have a free admission for museums. But for the wide public, which I think much more important or important in the same way, it's not common, and I think this is one of the problems that this is one of the problems. Like,
Yeah,
this is a big problem.
This is just one of the problems, but it tells a lot about how museums are running. It's just like it's same for the decolonization too. That's why it's so slow. Like, yeah, they're sending some artifacts back, but there's so much resistance within inside the structure, not like individually, but the whole structure is like designed like that. Same for the sponsorship too. I work for a major museum, and they had like a free day sponsored by a company. They didn't need that money, but they can make a money out of that sponsorship. Like, they can just name something else, but instead they are saying that, hey, your free admission is sponsored by this, and it means nothing. The Tate and BP sponsorship, for example, like they had to cancel it because they took it to the court, actually, the protesters. And in the court, Tate had to like open up their like accounts and show them how much they were paid by BP for 10 years. And the total amount that they got paid in 10 years, it was 10% of the total amount that they were taking from the public. And you can just donate any kind of money to Tate, and the whole sponsorship was like 10% of that total amount. So it's meaningless, nothing. And this corporation is BP. It's the British Petroleum. It's one of the biggest companies in the world. So they're like, their help to the museum, it was so small if you compare to the public. It's same for MoMA too, or same for any kind of big institutions, which is also like in Berlin too. But it also applies to the smaller museums too. They need some sponsorship, because I work in production. We need always like extra money, sponsorship. It's not a bad thing. I'm not like also like here Uniqlo. I like Uniqlo. I have nothing to do with Uniqlo. Of course, they should invest in this kind of thing, but how it is shaping the museum, and it is making this organization, institution, whatever you call, it's totally like functioning as like a capitalist corporation. It's just not making any profits, but it says that, hey, in order to run this museum, we need this. So that's why you need to enjoy your free day under a sponsorship. And also, like this thing happened in Berlin like 2 days ago, which they canceled the whole program just because Senate had to do some large budget cuts, like also like from public transport, from schools. It's crazy. But they killed this program, and they're assuming that all these people in the first Sunday of every month, they will rush to the museums and pay the admission. It's the opposite. Then no one will go to the museum on Sunday of the first month and say that, hey, we have been doing this freely for 3 years. Now it's my time to pay for it. It won't happen like that. And it's just like, but it says a lot about like how this museum structure is running itself in these days. I mean, this is, for me, this seems like super depressing. But on the other hand, how we earn this, like actually the example that I was talking about, MoMA's free admission days, it was the first museum MoMA accepted this, and it was 1969. Till that time, it was like, it was always with admission. And the first protest that I told you about, 1939, at the same year, the opening of the MoMA in the same building, the artists, they were like protesting MoMA for like super interesting things. And one of their demand about the protest was about like, hey, this museum is only showing that people, that artists. Like, we are living artists and we have no representation. And this happened not even like 100 years ago, and it happened in MoMA. So there are so many issues like that in the museums. Decolonization, for example, one of that. It's super problematic. But on the other hand, mostly artists are like taking this challenge to the museums, and still today. So even if we don't see any outcome right now, I think we will see some outcomes within like a couple of years, maybe months, maybe weeks. There's always something happening, like. But thank you for your comment. It's, yeah, this is the thing happening all around the world. I just choose MoMA because, super interestingly, most of the screenshots that I took, actually, the Art Workers Coalition, they have this amazing archive. They archived everything, so it was all from their archive. And that archive is in MoMA, actually. MoMA acquired that archive, and you can just go inside. And the first couple of slides, it's from the MoMA's website, which they have like an interactive website. You can go in decades and see the history of the MoMA. And they openly tell these stories like, hey, 60s, MoMA and protests. They are super open to that. But yeah, it's interesting.
I don't have a problem with sponsorship.
The same. I don't have any problem with the sponsorship too. But the thing is, you don't need the sponsors for like free admission days. You don't need.
But it's more complicated than this, because it's a power and economic
Exactly.
always part of everything.
Exactly.
And better not ignore it or protest it, better to use it and to find maybe more wise ways to use it.
Yeah, but on the other hand, like what happened in Berlin, they are canceling the free days, which was sponsored by the people, public money. I'm sponsoring that, and you are saying that I'm going to cut that because we need some money.
So maybe they need Uniqlo.
The thing is, this system is pushing museums to there, and museums are willing to go there. So they are willing to do this under the name of some corporate, instead of like public money from the taxes, because those money is controlled by the Senate, local governments, or the federal governments. Yeah, it's super problematic.
Yeah, and the museums are not cheap here in Berlin, in Germany.
Oh yeah, it's so expensive. And I'm not a student anymore. So when I was like doing my master's here, it was like half price, but now it's quite expensive. Just think about if you go to a museum on Berlin on Sunday with your family, like 4 people, you're done. Like
100 euros.
Yeah. You are never going to recover from that financial situation. It's expensive.
Yeah, I want to read a question of that is doing Mark. Yeah,
I was checking that too.
an argument that doesn't exist for BP oil is that major oil companies will be leading the way and important when renewable energy replaces fossil fuels, and these huge companies need to be part of the discussion. Many in museums disagree. What is your opinion?
This is super interesting topic because I followed Liberate Tate and BP movement for like 10 years. It was my first master degree thesis, this group. So they managed to cancel the sponsorship between Tate and BP. But it's just like taking out these oil companies out of the sponsorship because of these reasons, which are reasonable reasons. I totally believe in that. But these groups were not advocating like, hey, this sponsorship is bad, this is good. It was more like, hey, this, of course, this sponsorship is bad because it's fossil fuel company. It's not Uniqlo, let's say, BP. I don't like BP, but I don't have anything to do with Uniqlo, for example. But someone else can. That's another point. But it became like a global movement. Then France, Louvre, for example, had to cancel some sponsorship. Also, like Mark mentioned about like, yeah, Science Museum, Natural History Museum, they all had like fossil fuel sponsorships from BP or some other companies. And it took like 10 years to end up that sponsorship with the pressure. So I don't know, like what will happen. It's interesting to see, but I'm confident that, like, I don't say that museums don't need sponsorship, but I'm confident that this kind of challenges to the museums, they're not like challenging their economical structure of the museum, because as I mentioned before, like in 10 years, people voluntarily gave 10 times more money than BP supplied as sponsorship. And you can see BP's logo in all these sponsors, everywhere in Tate till the end of the sponsorship. But you don't see all these people's name, like public, you, me, some other people, 5 years old kid, whatever, on the exhibition walls. So it's eventually people will like support the museums. The museums shouldn't be afraid of like losing sponsors. They should be aware that like, hey, without like this kind of sponsorship, we can get more support from the public. And I actually ended up with the example of Berlin because this is horrible decision that they are doing this. It's literally saying that, hey, we don't need you in the museum. Like we don't care about it. We have enough visitors. We have enough like support from corporate or local government sponsorships or tax money, whatever. Yeah, we are just like cutting it.
Yeah, the tourists paying that.
Yeah, but
tourists. Yeah, yeah. I have a question for Brooke. Brooke, have you trying to find sponsors for the repatriation also, or?
Yeah, I know in Guam it's a little hard. Here in the United States, I work for a nonprofit, so we don't have as many loopholes. We can get anybody to sponsor us or anything like that. In Guam, the Guam Museum is the Department of Chamorro Affairs oversees Guam. So they're a government entity and they are very, very strict about funding. So it's been an issue because I'm also for many years have been trying to do a virtual exhibit at the Guam Museum. And it still hasn't happened because of funding issues. So that's the biggest thing with some countries is who is in charge of the museums or the folks who are trying to get things back, So yeah, that's the issue. It's the government in Guam.
Okay, so I don't know if someone has another question. We have another minute for another question, but yeah, we are almost finishing the conference. Yeah. Okay, it doesn't come more questions. So just let me to thank you all. Thank you so much, Marina, Brooke, Sihan, for your talks and for so interesting talks and knowledge and that you are sharing. And I mean, this has been a quite experience that you have to recapitulate all these 3 days with all this what all these people share it with us, and as I told you, we will share everything in the website and in the archive, in the website of the archive. All this, if you want to rewatch it or you want to review it, also if you want to post your presentation, okay, if you want to send me your presentation, I can post it in the archive for that open to everybody. Yeah. And also, to post your comments, and we have a discussion group in LinkedIn where we can keep discussing all these topics and all these ways to reach these goals, what we engage with this conference. Yeah, and I hope to see you all again in the next year in the EMAMI 2025.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Yeah,
Thank you,
guys.
David.
Great. I feel like my whole world has been opened up even more.
Yeah. Thank you so much, guys. Yeah, and we keep in touch. Thank you all.
Thank you for your effort.
Thank you, David, for everything.
Thank you. Ciao, ciao.
Ciao.
Bye.
It was interesting. You still hear me?
Yeah. Thank you, Marina. Thank you. Yeah.
It was interesting, and you had a lot of work.
Yeah, there was a lot of work. Yeah, there was 1 year of planning, and still there are things that are not. There was not perfect.
Okay.
Yeah, but even so, there was great event. It was great the 3 days, and we learned a lot. I learned a lot. I will write some couple of articles to what all the information that I bring and I digest and I reflected. Yeah. And also I would like to invite the people also to do it. Yeah.
Yeah,
and to share it with all. Yeah.
I will. It's good that you will upload the conference, so I will. All what I miss, I can check out.
Yeah, please. You will see. I will share with you the links and with all. Yeah, and that you can see it and rewatch it. Yeah. Thank you so much.
David. Have a good evening.
You
Bye
too.
bye.
Ciao, ciao, ciao.